friends, and welcome back to another video. Today I am filming our favourites video for the month. So in this video I'm going to talk about all of the books, decks and internet and other bits that I really have enjoyed and have made my month a great one. So let's start with the books. Firstly, two things have very much impacted my reading this month. The first is the Palestine Reading Challenge. And the second is the Wild Book Box, which I have signed up to again. I have done a full reading vlog for the Wild Book Box, which is currently up on my second channel. I'll leave a link to it below. And I will be doing one for my Palestine Reading Challenge in the next couple of weeks as well, if you're interested. I have also filmed today a full reading wrap up that will be up over on my second channel in the next couple of days. And that will be kind of rehashing and reviewing every single book that I read in the month of June. So if you're interested in that, check out my second channel. If you're into bookish stuff, I think that's a place for you. For now though, in this video, I just want to share with you my top 3 books of the month. The first is Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Kawaguchi. This is a Japanese novel and it is so sweet. It's only short and it was a very, very quick read. The elevator pitch is basically that this is set in a small little back alley cafe in Tokyo where you can go and time travel. But there's a lot of restrictions on how that time travel works. And basically people go and try to follow these rules. And in this little book, we sort of get 4 short stories that are interconnected that are all about different people who come to this cafe to try and time travel for different reasons. Most of them go for matters of the heart, for issues of regret, the sort of stuff you'd expect. Some people find this book a little bit on the nose in terms of its like moral positioning, but I just adored it. I ate it up. And this is the book that has made me cry by far the most this year. I absolutely loved it and I ugly cried on my couch for nearly an hour to the point where Blair was actually worried about me. And I loved every minute of it. Next is Palestinian Walks by Raja Shehadeh. This is one of the books that I've read for the Palestine Reading Challenge and I think my favourite so far. I loved this book. It is a non-fiction sort of memoir but mixed with nature writing. Raja is a lawyer and he's been involved in human rights law, but then he also does a lot of law for like land law and representing Palestinians, protecting their homes and their land from Israeli occupation. And this is just such a beautiful walk. It covers several decades and Raja takes us on a number of walks around the Palestinian hills near where he lives. And he intermingles his beautiful nature writing and discussing the land and the walks themselves. But he also talks about then his experience changing over the years, both in terms of the landscape around him changing, but his own experience changing as well, and the situation for the Palestinians changing so much too. There's a lot of heartbreak, frustration, sometimes even anger, upset in this book, but it's also sensitively tackled. It's a very vulnerable book. I think it will be one of my favorite books of the year. Absolutely wonderful. And then my favorite book from the Wild Book Box is The Enlightenment of the Green Gage Tree by Shokafeh Azar. This is actually an Australian title. It was translated from Farsi by an anonymous translator. And this is a historical fiction with many elements, very strong elements, of magical realism. And it is set in the decades after, immediately preceding and then the decades after the Islamic Revolution in Iran. It has so many mystical, mythical, magical elements that just add to this story and the emotional impact of the story so much and add like a richness. Essentially, we're following in this book a family of 5 and one of the younger sisters is the narrator. And we learn about them and their lives over many, many years and their experiences of Iran before the revolution, but then mostly after and how that impacts them. There's also a lot of stories within the story though, so we get a lot of other perspectives as well. And my favorite part of the book, and I think the strongest part of the book, was the inclusion of ghosts. There are a lot of ghosts in this book. Some are very important characters, others are more peripheral, but we still learn quite a bit about a lot of them. Having them there sort of representing just how significant the loss of human life, but then also of potential and of love is just, it's really, really moving. It's such a beautiful book. I talk about it so much more in that vlog and also in my reading wrap up. So if you're interested, definitely check those out. But I couldn't recommend this book more highly. I loved it. Next, let's talk about the decks. So this is a deck I've spoken about a little bit recently, and that is my Dialectical Behavior Therapy Card Skills deck. I did a little video about my therapeutic cards that I have that I find very useful for maintaining mental wellness, and this is one of my favorites. DBT is a therapy system that has been very, very helpful to me and that I swear by, at least from my experience. And this little deck I've just found so helpful in sort of just getting me to use the skills that I was taught in DBT, reminding me of those skills, reminding me of the skills that I have in my back pocket that sometimes I forget about, of getting me to practice the skills so they're sharpened and ready to go when I need them. And this month in particular, I found this deck very helpful because I had a situation where it was important for me to assert some boundaries with somebody that I love, and the interpersonal effectiveness skills were very helpful in doing that in a healthy way, in a productive way. And I just love having this deck around for things like that. Then because I've been using the Saltwater Reading Cards by Laura Bowen so much, I thought I'd switch it up and use the Dreamtime Reading Cards by Laura Bowen a little bit this month. I love this deck. This is probably my long time old favorite deck. I think this is one of the first decks I ever reviewed on this channel. It's such a warm deck to me. It really has so much heart and also a lot of balance within it. And I just find, as I've said before with the Saltwater Reading Cards, Laura Bowen's guidebooks are just perfection in my view. The way that she discusses so clearly whatever she's decided to include in the card, whether that's an animal or like a weather pattern situation, whatever it is. I love how she discusses, how this thing appears in nature and some of the more like, honoring that thing as it exists outside of us sort of thing. And then she moves into the message and what that thing can teach us or what it can offer us for the day or however you approach oracle cards. I love that approach because I love how she interweaves the more like objective, just looking at the thing as it is, but then the more personal of her interpretation of the thing. I'm saying thing a lot, but I hope you understand what I mean. I've just been using this deck in the same way that I use the Saltwater Reading Cards and most oracle decks at the moment, in just pulling myself a card every couple of days when I feel like I just need a little bit of a pep talk or a bit of grounding or a bit of focus for the day. And it's been serving that perfectly to me and I love it. It's been wonderful. And then the tarot deck I've been using this month is the Tarot de Saint Croix by Lisa de Saint Croix. I'm actually doing a video on this deck which will be up sometime in the next couple of weeks, so keep an eye out for that if you're interested. But I've spent quite a lot of quality time with this deck and I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed sort of getting back into using tarot a little bit more regularly. I did a lot more readings with this in the last few weeks than I have done in probably the previous several months. And I just love the colors that Lisa has used in this deck, and I really enjoy her very personal depictions of each of the cards. They're very obviously the card that they are if you're familiar with tarot, but very few of them feel like knockoffs of what we've seen before. She's definitely sort of taken her creative license and created a deck that feels very specific to her and her experience, but also accessible to us as tarot readers. I love that the guidebook provides like really specific examples of like what the card means to her and why she chose to depict it the way that she has. This feels like a really unique deck in so many ways. It feels like a very personal expression of what the cards mean to Lisa. And this whole deck is lovely, but some of these cards are just absolutely stunning. I really enjoyed spending some good quality time with this deck. It's been on my shelf for a long time, so it was well overdue for a test drive, and that's what I've done the last few weeks, and I had a really good time with it. Now this next thing, I wasn't sure whether to include this in the tarot section or the next section because it's not a deck that I own, but it is very tarot related, and that is the Bung Tung Tarot that Heather Carter, Julie from Peekaboo Rose, and Sarah from Sunset Bow Tarot have created. And they did there's a walkthrough of the cards and sort of the choices that they made about the imagery. And then there's also sort of like a live chat that they did or a roundtable chat that they did discussing the process of creating the deck. And I just love it. I think it's the coolest project I've ever seen. And I don't know, I'm obsessed. I think it's fabulous and so fun. And the Four of Cups, Hobie as the Four of Cups, is the greatest tarot depiction I've ever seen, hands down. And now for the other bits and pieces that I have loved this month. Firstly, I think I pretty much have a new favorite booktube channel, and that is 30 Books. It's a booktube channel set here in Australia, and she really focuses on reading Australian fiction. But the video I want to recommend to you is like literally a minute or so long, and it is so funny. It's a little skit, so it's not like a booktube typical video. It's a little skit about how booktubers supposedly read so much, and it cracked me up. I love it. Then another video I wanted to recommend, especially if you were interested in The Enlightenment of the Green Gage Tree. I found this because I was looking for a bit of information about the book. There is a review by Camille, and I will leave a link to their channel and the video where they review the book, but they also start the video sort of discussing like a brief outline of the history of the Islamic Revolution in Iran, which I found very helpful because I'm completely ignorant of the topic. So that was a great video, a very thorough review, a very interesting review. There are sort of like some spoilers, fairly vague and not super specific, especially about the end. Just keep that in mind if you are interested in reading the book. But a great review. And then another video that popped up in my subscription feed this month relevant to a book that I read was Ashley C. Ford was on the Vlogbrothers this month. She is apparently friends with John Green, and they hung out for a video, did a little quick 4-minute Q&A, and it was a really cute little video. I did listen to Ashley C. Ford's new book, Somebody's Daughter, this month. I got it through Libra FM, and it was a great book. It was a 4-star read from me, but seeing her and John pop up in my subs box this month while I was listening to her book was pretty cool. Then the thing that probably made me cry the most this month, besides Before the Coffee Gets Cold, was a live performance of Little Things by Paul Kelly, but a collaboration with Ziggy Ramo, I think his name is. He is an Indigenous artist and performer, and they sort of did like this collaborative reinterpretation of what is a classic, amazing song here in Australia. Paul Kelly's Little Things is a beautiful song. It's a classic here in Australia about land rights and Aboriginal rights. Specifically, it talks about like Vincent Lingiari and Gough Whitlam and that sort of era. It's a beautiful song. But this version of it, oh my God, it's such an incredible reinterpretation of the classic. But it's a powerful modernization of it and like an updated version of it. But I think that's it. I'm going to keep it pretty short and sweet this month. Links to everything that I've mentioned or names of things will be in the description box below. So if you're interested in anything, that is the place to check. But that is all from me for this time. Thank you so much for watching. I would love to hear what you have been loving this month down in the comments below. And I will talk to you again in the next video. So much love. Bye.